More than anything, this is a letter to martial arts school owners, but to the general martial arts community as well. You see, we have done a very, very bad job, especially in the last, say, 20 years, but, going back further than that, of selling the martial arts to the general public. On the one side, you have the as real as it gets MMA crowd spouting off about MMA, and if it doesn't show up in the cage, it doesn't work. And, by tangent, because it came along with it, the jiu-jitsu crowd doing the same thing. Unfortunately, that does not speak to the general public. The general public is by and large not interested in competition. The general public is by and large not interested in going hardcore all the time. They're not interested in training like professional fighters. On the other side, the traditional martial arts community, and I lump everybody else in with that, and I hate using that term, but it's the term that people are familiar with. Look, you've done an even worse job because you allowed your training to degrade to such a level that those in the competitive martial arts, combat sports realm dominate you so hard that people have lost faith in you. Never mind the fact that most people who do not come from the cultures these arts were born in are not interested in playing dress up to go train. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, I really don't want to wear a uniform, right? Whether it feels dorky, nerdy, disingenuous, whatever. But the fact is that the traditional martial arts community has sold all sorts of lies, right? You don't have to be strong, you don't have to be athletic, you don't have to be big, size doesn't matter. All of these things that are just demonstrably false. And the fact is that the traditional martial arts community has harmed itself, and the combat sports community is currently harming itself. If we want martial arts culture to grow, we have to do something different, right? Even self-defense culture. Oh man, self-defense culture is just full of charlatans, people that don't know what they're doing, people who will get you in legal trouble even if you win the fight, people who will push you to get into a fight, whether or not that's the right course of action from a legal self-defense standpoint. Hyper aggressive, Krav Maga and whatever else, guys. Man, it is insane. And the fact is that the statistics don't warrant the kind of self-defense and the push for self-defense that people are putting out there. So the fact is that the martial arts world is failing on all fronts. What we need, and I'm saying this now as a martial arts school owner, as somebody who has never been a big school owner, as somebody who has only ever been very modestly successful, right? So take my word with a grain of salt, but what we need is to build culture. If we don't want this to stay a niche thing, if we want this to be something that the general public wants to partake in, right? And, the general public doesn't exercise either. The general public doesn't educate themselves either. I understand that. But if we want a larger market share, we have to do better at building culture. And what does building culture mean? Building culture means things like making people feel welcome, making the arts accessible. And that doesn't mean degrade the arts, but that might mean stratifying classes. That might mean shifting things into tiers. That might mean having things that are more geared towards, say, a recreational attitude. Having classes that are more geared towards recreation, fitness, and personal development may be in order. In fact, I think it is in order. I think that the martial arts is best served if we treat it more like, say, the Boy Scouts. One of the big things, and this bothers me so much, is martial arts is not for children. Now, I'm not saying children shouldn't train in martial arts. I specifically don't train children for a reason. Just it's a temperament thing and all that. But what we're really looking at here is the fact that martial arts is not designed for children. Martial arts is designed for fighting, and we don't want children fighting, right? We want children wrestling, maybe. We want children figuring out how to play, right? And that's why I think joining the high school wrestling team or the elementary school wrestling team, whatever their age is their best option. If they're teenagers, go ahead, put them in Golden Gloves boxing. That'll probably be all right. Or any of the amateur boxing, throw them in Taekwondo or karate. I think those are absolutely fantastic. As the modern child-centric recreational martial arts goes, I think that those are all fantastic options. But the fact is that when we get down to it, the profession of martial arts is learning how to create damage on another human being, using our bodies as weapons, and in some cases actually using weapons. Martial arts are not for children, and we need to do a better job of selling that to the general public and getting people in the door. One of the big prohibitive things, and I have asked people in the Facebook group and surveyed forums online and stuff, and it seems like most people, there's one of two things that drives people away from martial arts. Either they feel that the culture of the school or the instructor, they didn't jive with it, right? It wasn't the right fit for them for whatever reason. And two, the price. Now, I understand, look, as a business owner, I understand why we charge what we charge. But the fact is that we have to find ways to make things more accessible for people in order to broaden that base. And I don't know exactly what that takes, but it takes something other than what we're doing. Who are the most successful schools right now? They're the jiu-jitsu schools. Why is it the jiu-jitsu schools? Well, one, the jiu-jitsu schools have 20 years plus 30 years of marketing based around their early success in MMA and just piggybacking off of that and some dubious statistics. The other thing that they have is when you go to a jiu-jitsu school, like not only are you rolling with people just constantly and building up camaraderie, right? They generally foster a club mentality, and it draws people in, right? It creates a social group. Now, if we look at, say, self-determination theory, relatedness is part of the trifecta in self-determination theory, right? Autonomy, competence, and relatedness. The relatedness is having people, that share your interests and that you can communicate with as part of that, right? Autonomy makes sense, right? Martial arts is all about autonomy. It is about you gaining mastery over your body, especially in conflict, right? And competence makes sense because you are gaining competence over a skill set. That's generally part of the martial arts as well. But you get to that third one, relatedness. How many people walk into your school, get their workout in, go home, never think about anything, you don't have conversations, they don't have buddies in class, whatever. That's a problem, right? It should not be only certain schools that are doing that. That should be the standard, not the exception. And it is just absolutely frustrating when you hear so many people say, "Oh, I don't need that. I'll just get a gun," or I don't want to look stupid. If they are fearing looking stupid, that means that they don't believe in the culture of what we're doing, because they believe that people will deride them and that they will be embarrassed rather than supported and uplifted. That's a problem. There are things that we can do to fix the culture that we are in. And some of that is, social media presentation and all that. Some of that is finding avenues for this outside of high-level competition, because high-level competition only draws in the competitive folks. But you have a lot of people that are drawn to martial arts because it's a solo discipline as opposed to a team discipline. And those people are often not competitive. They're not interested in going after medals or trophies or titles or anything like that. They just want to train for the autonomy and the competence. And whether they admit it or not, they're probably actually looking for a tribe. And we have to be able to build that. It is important. It is just ridiculously important. And look, I am more misanthropic, and I don't know that I would use the term introverted, but I am just generally standoffish with people, but not in my school. I will just use my time at home to decompress and relax and all of that, right? And I guard my time, my personal time, carefully, but I know my role in my school. And I am genuinely happy when the people come in and want to share things with it. I mean, is many of my students have become my friends. And I think that's important. Now, that's not to say that you have to treat everybody that walks in the door like a long-lost friend, right? Because there is going to be a vetting process and a getting to know you process and all of that. Absolutely there is. I'm not saying to be disingenuous about that. What I'm saying is that when you find that connection, then you take hold of that and do something with it, right? My thing is I love being nerdy about this stuff. And it tends to keep people around who also enjoy being nerdy about this stuff. And then we can have conversations and, ask questions and spitball back and forth. And it becomes very engaging and very fun. And I mean, I end up staying after class, having conversations quite frequently, right? So it comes down to the fact that we need to be building culture in a way that reaches out to the general population, right? You saw that video that I did a little while ago, right? And the people that stick around martial arts semi-long term, at least for a year, right, is about 1% of the population. That is a pathetic measure, right? No martial arts organization has enough market share to register as having market share. The entire martial arts industry doesn't really have market share. That seems kind of ridiculous to me, right? So here's my proposal. Here's something that I would like to see done. I would like to see martial arts approached almost more like Boy Scouts. And I guess they're just called the Scouts now, whatever, right? But the fact is that what we need to be doing is fostering improvement. You know what's cool about the Scouts, right, with the merit badge thing is you can pursue, like there may be a curriculum, but you can pursue aspects on your own, and you're encouraged to pursue aspects on your own and then get signed off on, right? And you have the Scout meetings and you have the field trips and all of that. But what it's doing is it's helping you develop some competency, some personal development, some autonomy, right? And it's actually giving you a club to work with. That's how martial arts should work. I want the martial arts to work like the Scouts, and I especially want it to work for adults, right? Now, like I said, I don't necessarily train children myself because I don't have the temperament for it. It's not my crowd, but I'm glad that people who train children exist. And I think it's, we take teens and up, right? And if the teens can be trained like adults, we train them. I think that we need that kind of thing within martial arts. And remember this, we talked about this before as well. Martial arts is part of the overall physical culture and even personal development realm. Martial arts is more than just fighting. It is fighting. It is primarily fighting. But in order to make that fighting effective, martial arts is butted right up against. It is adjacent to and overlapping with fitness. And because martial arts is about conflict, it brings in, moral and ethical questions, which most people are not equipped to deal with. But then you are starting to talk about personal development, where you start talking about ethics and belief systems. And it does not mean that you need to turn your school into a church. It does not mean that you need to turn your school into a cult. That is not what I'm saying. But it is important to then be able to discuss the extensions of when is it ethical to use violence, use force? When is it ethical to go beyond just the art? What other realms, right, in the broad umbrella of what martial arts is, what other things than fighting does this satisfy, right? Martial arts should be like the Boy Scouts, and it should be martial arts, martial arts skill work. It should be physical culture, and it should be personal development. That's what we should be doing, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Hey, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all the other social media stuff. You can check out our other socials as well as take a look at some of the merchandise that we have for offer in the links below. And if you happen to be in the Phoenix metro area, stop in, come in for a class, come in just to say hi. We'd love to meet you. Until next time, good journey.